So what kind of job postings are showing up?
Mhm. Well, I think it's no surprise that healthcare and medical jobs are starting to arise, so everything from nurses to lab technicians. But I think it's also interesting to see that the global public health response is creating demand for jobs like communication specialists or consultants.
And that is so important, right? When you're talking about a virus that is in some ways scary, but in some ways misunderstood, or there's so many misconceptions that can easily spread, those communication jobs are really important.
hmm Well, in a crisis, it's really important to have effective, timely, and accurate communications. So those kinds of skills are very important to all organizations today.
Now, the other side of this is that it may be cutting other jobs or threatening other jobs. Can you explain that?
Well, it's still too early to say what the impact on the labor market and the economy will be. Certainly, that's something that people are concerned about, and it is something that we're going to be watching very closely.
And is that in some ways, is there more of an impact when you're talking about companies that have work in China or have connections to China and other countries that may be more impacted than the US?
hmm Well, I would say that economists today are most concerned about manufacturing and tourism. So those are industries that have a lot of exposure to China and rely on an uninterrupted flow of goods and people. But again, it's still pretty early into the outbreak, so it's hard to say exactly how things are going to evolve.
So let's talk about how companies are responding and in order to make employees feel safe or help them learn what they could do to prevent a virus, whether it's the flu, because we are still in flu season, or the coronavirus. So can you talk about the workplace response?
hmm Well, I think it's actually really interesting that we are seeing employees leave reviews on Glassdoor that actually praise their company's response efforts. In addition to very tangible actions like allowing companies to work remotely or work from home, they're also just being very transparent about communication. That's a unifying theme for employees who feel like their companies are doing a good job.
And so can you talk a little bit about how they're communicating this or what people are saying is great about how their employer is responding?
hmm Well, I think the important thing to remember is that people are concerned. And so you don't necessarily need to have all the answers as an employer. Employees just want to know that their employers are looking out for them and that they're monitoring things closely, even if they don't have all the answers right now.
Right. Has been a lot of communication here at CBS too about this, so it does give you a sense that that your managers are on top of it. So there's some value in that. All right, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.